My name is Marcus Hale, Senior Corrections Officer at the United States Penitentiary, Administrative Maximum Facility, ADX Florence, Colorado. My shift on the day everything went wrong began at 0540 hours, and I remember the exact minute because the air in the Sally Port felt colder than usual, sharp enough that it stung when I inhaled. I'd worked at this prison for 10 years, and I'd never felt anything like that morning's tension. A kind of electric pressure settling behind my ribs before I even swiped my badge. I told myself it was just the altitude, just the winter, just the fatigue that comes from a decade of walking the halls of a place designed to crush the human spirit. But deep down, I knew better. Something was off. Inside, the air smelled faintly of steel and disinfectant, the usual scent of ADX, but beneath it lingered something metallic, almost like blood oxidizing. I stood in line for the standard pat-down and equipment check, greeting Officers Perez and Dalton with nods. Nobody was chatty. That alone was a red flag. This place breeds silence, but officers usually talk a little during check-in, complaints about paperwork, jokes about night shift, the usual coping mechanisms. Today their eyes were forward, their jaws clenched, and when I stepped up to Lieutenant Mercer, he didn't look me in the eye. "You got the control units today," he said, passing me the shift sheet without his usual warning about inmate 11208-051 or inmate 03194-067. Instead, he added something I'd never heard in my entire career. "Not here, not anywhere. And follow the red line rule. No exceptions." I stared at him. "That's not a regulation." "It is today." He tapped the page, jaw tight. "Stick to the red lines. Do not cross them, no matter who's talking to you." I wanted to question him further, but Mercer stepped aside for the next officer, and the line pushed me forward. I tried brushing off his words as some new operational quirk. ADX has more protocols than any place I've ever worked. Rules for doors, rules for walking, rules for eye contact, rules for silence, rules for when and how to breathe in front of certain inmates. Maybe some new psychological study had changed how we navigated the X block. But I'd worked here too long not to recognize when a superior was scared. Mercer wasn't unsettled. He was terrified. When I entered the main corridor, I noticed the red lines for the first time. Thin stripes of paint running parallel to the walls, bright against the dull concrete. They weren't there the day before. They led toward the control units, the most isolated inmates in the country. Terrorists, cartel leaders, mob enforcers, people who should never mingle with another living soul. The lines almost looked wet, like they'd been painted overnight in a rush. The prison was too quiet. ADX always feels like a tomb, but even tombs have the occasional echo. Today the halls felt padded, sound swallowed by something invisible. I walked the route toward a range, my boots landing carefully within the red stripes because, despite every skeptical instinct I had, Mercer's voice replayed in my head. "Do not cross them, no matter who's talking to you." I reached the first observation post and checked in with Officer Brandt, who sat stiff-backed, eyes locked straight ahead. He didn't turn to me, didn't even blink. His knuckles had gone white around his baton. "You good?" I asked. "Quiet morning," he said, but his tone was flat, rehearsed, like someone repeating a line under duress. The inmate in cell 112, Derek Slade, former intelligence operative turned domestic extremist, pressed his face against the reinforced slit of his door when I passed. "Officer Hale," he called, voice smooth like always. "There's something wrong with the air system. I need you to get maintenance." I didn't stop. Inmates at ADX manipulate officers any way they can. fake medical emergencies, staged conflicts, anything for human reaction. Submit a request through the proper channels, I said, keeping my pace steady along the red guide path. Slade chuckled, low and knowing. You never used to be a man who followed painted lines. My shoulders tightened. How the hell did he know about that rule? It had been implemented less than an hour ago. Inmates were isolated, soundproofed. Communication between them was impossible. Keep your distance from the door, I ordered, refusing to turn, and kept walking even as he hissed something behind me. Something too soft to make out. The next unit was worse. The lights flickered once, just once, but long enough to break my stride. ADX is built so redundantly that outages shouldn't be possible. The flicker wasn't random. It felt deliberate, like the building itself blinking. As I turned into B range, I heard the first sound of the morning. Something most inmates can't make through reinforced walls. A whisper. Not a voice, not words. Just the low static of someone breathing too close to a microphone. I froze, listening. It wasn't coming from any specific cell. It was coming from the hallway speakers. Brant, I said into my radio. You hearing that? Silence. Then a soft crackle. Stay on the red lines, a voice replied. But it was not Brant's voice. It was slow. It was hoarse. It sounded like someone trying to speak through a damaged throat. I stepped backward, carefully, keeping my boots between the lines, pulse pounding so hard it felt like a second heartbeat. The whisper continued through the hall, steady, rhythmic, like someone pacing behind a closed door. Except there were no footsteps, no shadows, no nothing, just breath. Then the voice whispered again, this time from directly behind me, too close to be from the speakers. Marcus, don't turn around. My training froze every muscle I had. My instincts screamed to look, but Mercer's warning echoed louder. Follow the red line rule. No exceptions. I swallowed hard, grounded my feet, and took a single step forward. I didn't turn. I should have, because the breath behind me followed. The breath behind me felt too controlled to be an accident, too measured to mistake for my imagination. I kept my hands loose at my sides and forced myself into slow, steady steps along the red lines. Every correctional instinct in my body screamed to break protocol, pivot, and confront whatever was behind me. But the fact that someone had added a new rule to ADX overnight meant I couldn't trust instinct anymore. Not today. The whispering through the hallway speakers faded. The breathing didn't. I reached the intersection that split toward C range, and when I stopped, the breath stopped too. Not a fraction of a second late. Exactly on my pause, as if whoever or whatever was following me was matching my movements perfectly. My back prickled with cold, adrenaline surging until my fingertips tingled. I tried the radio again. Control, this is Hale. I need a status check on audio feeds and officer placement. Static. A slow, dragging static like someone running a gloved hand across sandpaper. Then, buried within it, the faintest suggestion of syllables. Not words. Just the shape of breath attempting speech. I forced myself forward. The red lines led toward the special housing threshold. Another set of reinforced barriers designed to keep inmates from ever contacting an officer without multiple layers between us. The doors didn't open as I approached. They always opened. Every time. A sensor recognized officer badges automatically, sliding the massive locks into motion before we even reached the steel. This time, nothing. I tapped the panel manually, swiped my badge, keyed in the override, then waited for the diagnostic tone. Instead, a low rumble vibrated through the concrete beneath my boots, like a distant generator struggling against resistance. The breath behind me resumed. Close, too close, like a mouth hovered inches from my neck. I need immediate override on SHU South in Trance, I said, voice barely stable. Control, respond. Silence again. No, something worse than silence. A soft click crackled through the speaker above my head, the sound of a microphone being manually activated. Someone was listening. Someone wanted me to know they were listening. Then a voice, calm, even familiar, spoke through the intercom. Marcus, step away from the door. It wasn't coming from behind me. It wasn't in the hallway. It was coming from inside the SHU barrier. My throat constricted. That was impossible. Every inmate in SHU was locked down. No one had access to the door panel. No one had access to a live mic. And yet the voice, my voice, spoke again. Step away. My mind raced. Someone could have pulled an old sample from recorded logs. Officers are recorded every day. Someone could splice together audio, mimic my tone. But even knowing that possibility didn't make it any less disorienting hearing my own voice ordering me away from a door that should have opened automatically. The breath behind me grew deeper, heavier. I took one step back, then another, keeping my boots centered between the red lines. The SHU barrier activated, not with the usual mechanical symphony of metal latches. This time it opened manually, slow, grinding, as if the weight of the reinforced steel resisted the movement. The sound crawled across the corridor walls like something dragging chains. As the door parted, the overhead lights dimmed, flickered, and then stabilized at a lower, colder brightness. I held my baton tight, my free hand hovering over my holster, not drawing, but ready. A narrow sliver of the SHU interior revealed itself, darker than it should have been. Too dark. Emergency lights should have been on inside, but the corridor beyond looked swallowed in shadow, swallowed in something that absorbed more than absence of power. The red lines continued through the threshold, unervingly bright against the encroaching gloom. The breathing behind me drifted left, then right, like something shifting its weight, evaluating angles around me. My jaw clenched so tight my teeth hurt. A shape moved inside the dark hall. Just a silhouette, just a blur. Lean, upright, human height. For a moment I thought an inmate had escaped, a scenario we train for relentlessly. But this figure didn't move like a man in restraints. It glided, its steps too fluid, the pacing too slow, as though its limbs operated on separate timing from gravity. I heard myself whisper, "Who's in there?" The answer came from the speaker again, my own voice replying, "You are." I jerked backwards so hard my shoulder blades hit the wall. Pain shot down my left arm, but it barely registered under the surge of dread. Control was compromised. Cameras were compromised. Audio was compromised. And someone, somewhere in this building, had accessed my voice logs. The figure in the SHU corridor began approaching, just a few inches at a time. Not threatening, not rushing, just advancing with deliberate, confident intent. My radio crackled. A different voice this time, female, strained, breathless. "Hale? Marcus? You still in C-Wing?" I didn't recognize the voice immediately, but the relief hit me hard enough that my knees weakened. "Officer Rin?" I said, pressing the transmit button. "Where the hell is control? Systems are malfunctioning across the..." Her voice cut in sharply. "Do not enter the SHU. Repeat, do not enter." Stay on the red lines and come back toward main corridor. There's someone in the unit, I said. Pause. Too long. Then quietly, no, there isn't. I stared at the dark corridor again. The silhouette had stopped at the boundary where the light met the dark, like the threshold itself held it in place. Tilted its head, not a normal tilt, not human curiosity. The angle was wrong, too sharp, almost reflective, as if it waited for me to turn my head the same way. Rin's voice returned, lower now. Marcus, you need to leave. Right now. The breath behind me deepened. It wasn't pacing anymore. It was standing still again, exactly behind my right shoulder, matching the figure in front, as though I were caught between two mirrored postures. Control's been evacuated, Rin said. Something happened during night shift. I'm trying to reach Mercer. Just listen to me. Follow the red lines back. My pulse hammered. Rin, what's going on? I don't know, she whispered. But whatever's happening, don't let anything make you leave the red path. The figure in the SHU leaned forward. The breath behind me leaned with it, two synchronized motions closing around me like jaws. I swallowed hard, lifted my radio closer to my mouth, and took my first backward step. The breath followed. The silhouette followed. The lights flickered, and somewhere far down the hall, deeper in the facility, a door slammed so hard it shook the floor. I didn't wait. I walked. Not fast. Not slow. Just steady. Boots hugging the red lines as the shadow and the breath matched me step for step. The corridor felt longer on the way back, as if the building itself was stretching with each of my steps. I kept my eyes fixed forward, locked on the red lines beneath me. My peripheral vision pulsed with movement, shapes that didn't have weight, shadows that didn't belong to any physical source, but I refused to look. The breath behind me stayed steady, syncing with my pace as if the thing following me didn't need lungs, only rhythm. Rin, I said into the radio. I'm heading back toward the main corridor. Where are you? Static. Then her voice, closer this time, strained. Still trying to reach Mercer. He's not answering radio, intercom, or internal phone. Keep walking. I swallowed. Are you alone? Silence again. A different kind this time, tight, as if she was debating whether to lie. For now, she whispered. The breath behind me grew shallow, almost anticipatory. Whatever followed me seemed to lean in whenever Rin spoke, like it understood her voice, maybe even recognized it. I kept moving. The red lines guided me through C-Wing, past the cell blocks where inmates pressed themselves against reinforced windows, trying to catch glimpses of whatever had turned the facility upside down. They couldn't see it. I knew they couldn't. ADX's sightlines were engineered to reveal as little as possible. But they heard something. I could see it in their faces, in the way they stepped back, not from me, but from the air behind me. Seth Lawson, 15409-009, a cartel enforcer who never flinched at anything, stared over my shoulder with eyes too wide to fake. What's behind you? He mouthed. I didn't respond. Couldn't. If I acknowledged it, I'd turn. And if I turned, no, I didn't let myself go there. I walked faster, still controlled, still inside the red lines. My boots never drifted more than an inch toward the concrete beyond. The painted path curved toward the primary junction, the point where A, B, and C wings split like spokes. I prayed to anyone listening that the main corridor would be empty, that whatever had gone wrong hadn't spilled into the central arteries of ADX. The breath behind me stopped. I froze. The stillness was worse than its presence. The lack of sound meant it was changing position. An unpredictable thing is dangerous. A silent, unpredictable thing is fatal. I didn't turn. I didn't blink. I simply waited until the breath returned, slow and steady, slightly to my left now. "Marcus," Rin said, her voice tight with urgency. "Where exactly are you?" "Approaching the junction," I managed. "Good," she said. "I need you to listen carefully. When you reach the open space, do not step into the center. Stay on the walls. Stay on the red lines. There are no exceptions." My stomach twisted. "Rin, what's happening here?" A long exhale came through the radio. Not hers. Not any officers. Too loud. Too close. Then Rin said, barely audible, "Not on radio. Someone's listening." My blood ran cold. I reached the junction. The space opened into a wide, circular intersection designed for maximum sightline visibility. Normally sterile, loud, and brightly lit, the area now felt like a hollowed-out cathedral. Lights dimmed just enough that every shadow stretched unnaturally long. The red lines continued around the perimeter, hugging the walls and avoiding the open center entirely. I kept to them. The breath behind me followed but hesitated at the edge of the open space, as if the center of the room was something it didn't want to enter, or couldn't. I saw movement at the far end. A figure stepped out from behind the security column. Officer Rin. Her uniform looked wrinkled, her hair out of regulation, eyes wide with fear. But she was real, human, breathing, alive. "Marcus," she called, voice cracking. "Don't stop. Keep walking the perimeter toward me." I did. Every step kept tight to the red stripe. As I circled toward her, she kept glancing at the center of the junction, not looking at me, not looking over my shoulder. She was watching the empty space between us. "Rin," I whispered, "what's in the center?" "Don't acknowledge it," she said sharply. "Just move." A chill crept up my spine. She wasn't looking past me. She was looking through something invisible, something casting a distortion into the air, the faintest shimmer, like heat waves rising from an asphalt road. I didn't break stride. Not once. The breath behind me had stopped again, but I could feel its presence lingering at the threshold of the junction, as if it struggled to cross an unseen barrier. Rin reached out a shaking hand. "Almost there. Do not move inward. Even one step." A sound cut her off. A violent metallic clang, echoing down the right-hand corridor. Then another. Then a scream, human, guttural, unmistakably an officer. Rin snapped her hand back, eyes widening. "Hale, don't." She didn't finish. She didn't need to. A door down the corridor began slamming open and shut on its hinges, crashing like a battering ram with no rhythm, no human force behind it. Something was hitting it faster than any person could physically move. "Is that Mercer?" I whispered. Rin's voice broke. "He was in sea control before it went dark. I don't know where he is now." Another slam, harder. Then the hinges groaned, tearing metal. Rin stepped back. "Marcus, keep walking toward me. Do not run." I kept my footsteps even, calm, but my pulse pounded hard enough to blur the edges of my vision. The breath behind me surged again, louder, angrier, as if whatever had been following me realized I was leaving its territory. "Almost there," she said, voice trembling. I reached her. She grabbed my sleeve, pulling me the last foot into her reach. And that's when the lights went out. All of them. A pitch-black silence swallowed the junction. I felt Rin's grip tighten to a painful clamp, and in the dark, directly ahead, no longer behind me, came the sound of breathing. Not one breath, three, left, right, center, surrounding us, a sound that had shape like something stepping toward us on bare, deliberate feet. Rin whispered so softly I felt her breath on my cheek. Don't move. Don't speak. It doesn't react to stillness. But something did react. Something in the center of the junction inhaled deeply, as if drawing in the air we stood in, and taking with it every illusion of safety left in this place. The three breaths merged into one. Then a voice, low, distorted, unmistakably human, whispered from the dark. You stepped off. My heart lurched. I hadn't. I knew I hadn't. But something in the dark wanted me to believe I had. Rin squeezed my arm, trying to anchor me. Then the lights flickered once, enough to give me a single frame of vision. Enough to see a shadow in the center. Tall, thin, bent at angles that weren't possible. And it was reaching toward us. The breath hit my face. Then the lights died again. When the lights went out, the dark didn't feel empty. It felt packed tight, like the air had weight, like something was pressed against my chest and spine at the same time. Rin's hand still gripped my sleeve, but she wasn't pulling anymore. She was holding on the way someone holds a ledge over a cliff. Her breath hitched once, then stopped. Complete stillness. She was following her own rule. I tried to keep still too. Then the breathing in front of us shifted. It didn't grow louder, it got closer. A small displacement of air brushed my forehead. The kind of movement you only feel when someone leans toward you in a dark room. Rin whispered so softly I barely heard it. Do not flinch. I felt something study my face. Not touching, just observing. A presence that felt colder than the concrete around us, yet warmer than any breeze. Human adjacent, but wrong in angles and weight. My spine stiffened. I didn't breathe. The whispering breath drifted sideways, then circled behind me. The hairs at the base of my neck lifted as if static crawled down the back of my shirt. It was walking, bare feet, slow. Too slow, like it was adjusting each step for maximum sound, not stealth. Rin nudged me, a warning. The red lines were somewhere under our boots, but in the dark I had no guarantee we were still on them. I kept my toes locked, my ankles rigid. Another breath hit my ear, then my own voice. My exact tone, cadence, and micro-inflections murmured in the dark. Marcus, step forward. Rin squeezed my arm so hard pain jolted through my shoulder. The mimic spoke again, closer this time. Just one step. I clenched my teeth. That voice was too perfect. A recording couldn't follow us into this darkness. Couldn't shift position. Couldn't change proximity mid-sentence. Rin's whisper brushed my jawline. It wants to separate us. The mimic breathed in, long and shallow, like pulling my scent from the air. Then it exhaled words that weren't mine. Step. Off. The line. I didn't move. Somewhere behind us, a metallic thud echoed. Something hitting a wall, then dragging along its surface, nails scraping over steel. It was meant to rattle us. And it did. The junction lights flickered for less than a second. Enough to reveal, not a full human shape, just a suggestion of one. A dark outline with limbs too long, joints bent backward, a neck that arched like a hooked crane. No features, no face. A silhouette against the faint glow of emergency panels struggling to stay alive. Rin didn't scream. She didn't even gasp. Her grip tightened, as if bracing for impact. The lights died again. The dragging sound stopped. Then came footsteps. Rapid, darting, unpredictable footsteps, zigzagging around the junction, fast enough to belong to multiple bodies. But the breaths were singular. It was one thing, moving faster than its weight should allow. I raised my radio very slowly, not to speak, just to confirm that I still had something real in my hand. Rin whispered almost inaudibly, "We need light, even 1 second of it. Move your hand along the wall. Slowly. Emergency panel should be behind us." I inched backward, keeping every muscle in my legs locked. My fingertips found concrete, then metal. The emergency light panel was recessed, just above chest height. I ran my fingers across its casing until I found the test button. The footsteps stopped instantly. It knew. Rin pressed her forehead against my arm. "Do it on 3, she whispered so quietly the words broke apart. 1, 2. The mimic exhaled. The lights surged on. The junction exploded in brightness, harsh white filling every corner. Rin shielded her eyes. I squinted through the glare. The center of the junction was empty, but the wall not 10 feet behind us. A tall, spindly imprint stretched across it, as if something had leaned their seconds before the lights came on. A smear of condensation where a mouth might have been. A streak of damp where fingers may have pressed. Whatever it was still in the room. Rin tugged me toward the west corridor. Not running, not panicking, just fast, controlled motion. "Marcus, look at the lines." The red stripes on the floor now branched into 2 routes. They hadn't been split when we arrived. One path hugged the right wall. The other veered left toward a narrower hallway. Rin pointed to the right. "That one leads to the staff gallery." "How do you know?" "Because the left one didn't exist this morning." The lights flickered again, once warningly. We followed the right path, boots glued to the lines. Every light above us buzzed unnaturally, like the circuitry was overheating. The deeper we moved into the staff corridor, the more the buzzing turned into crackling. Electrical panels hummed, vibrating the air. Rin walked ahead, turning her head slightly to keep me in view without fully facing me. She was shaking. Not from fear, she had that under control, but from exhaustion. She must have been running since before my shift even started. "What happened during night shift?" I murmured. Her jaw clenched. She didn't answer at first. Then, it started in decontrol. Someone reported seeing a person walking past their visual blind spot on the monitors. Except, there was no one scheduled to be in that quadrant. "So a glitch?" "No." They described the figure in detail, but the monitors didn't show anything. I felt pressure at my spine, the breath again. It wasn't gone. It had simply hidden from the light. Rin continued, voice tight. Then Officer Raoul went to check the quadrant. He radioed in saying he saw the same figure standing in the center of the yard. Alone. No inmate had clearance to be there. The humming grew louder. 40 seconds later, Rin said. Raoul screamed. Something slammed a door far behind us, hard enough that dust fell from the ceiling. Rin grabbed my arm. "Marcus, don't look back." We kept moving. The corridor narrowed, the lights sputtering with each step. The air pressure dropped sharply, like the whole wing suddenly shared one breath. Ahead, the red lines converged into a single path leading toward a secured staff door. But that door, normally open during daytime shifts, was shut. Behind us, the breathing grew faster. Rin swore under her breath. "It's driving us." She lunged for the access panel and swiped her badge. Red light. Denied. She tried again. Denied. My heart punched my ribs. Rin, open it. I'm trying. Her voice cracked. It's overriding my ID. The breathing behind us turned into a ragged, hungry draw. I saw the lights above flicker in a descending wave, like something was moving down the corridor toward us, tripping each panel as it came. Rin tried her badge a third time. Access denied. Then the thing behind us whispered. My voice again, perfect and wrong. You stepped off. Rin slammed her palm against the panel. The lights cut out, and something cold curled around my collar. Something hooked 2 fingers, ice cold, deliberate, under the back of my collar. Not tugging, just holding like it was checking how easily it could pull me backward. The dark felt thicker than before, humid with breath that wasn't mine or Rin's. I kept my feet cemented to where I hoped the red line still ran, shoulders locked, lungs frozen. Rin hissed into the black. Don't move. Don't react. It tests responses. The grip tightened, slow and curious, not violent. Not yet. It lifted my collar half an inch, as if measuring resistance. My pulse hammered so hard I could hear it echo in my ears. The air around my neck cooled until it burned, like frostbite blooming under my skin. I forced my voice through clenched teeth. Try the panel again. Now. Rin's fingers scrambled along the wall, hitting casing, metal, plastic. Then the scanner. A soft beep sounded. Too loud in the silence. Too hopeful. Denied. The cold grip flexed. Something exhaled against the side of my throat. Not warm. Not human. Like standing beside an open freezer in the dead of winter. Rin whispered, Marcus, I'm going to try something. Before I could ask what, she reached blindly across the wall, feeling for the emergency release latch built into the frame. It wasn't meant to be used often, only when electronic panels failed, but every ADX officer knew exactly where it was. Her hand found the metal lip. The thing behind us inhaled sharply, like the movement interested it. Rin froze. The grip on my collar twisted the fabric. It wasn't pulling. It was turning me, millimeter by millimeter, testing how far it could angle my body before I'd instinctively resist. My boots slid against the floor, desperately fighting to stay aligned with the red line. Rin mouthed more than spoke. Do not let it turn you. My knees trembled. My throat felt raw from holding in breath. The cold weight on my collar didn't feel like fingers anymore. It felt like something boneless, something jointless, like a coil curling around cloth, not hands gripping it. The emergency lights flickered on dim, red, stuttering weakly, for less than a second. But enough. I saw something, not a body, not a face, just the vague shape of a shoulder and arm behind me, except the arm wasn't straight. It bent in 2 opposing directions at once, like someone had drawn a limb wrong on paper and forced it into reality. The silhouette snapped out as soon as the lights died again, leaving only the cold grip and the faint echo of breath. Rin made her move. She yanked down the emergency latch. The door hydraulic screamed, then released with a violent hiss. The panel clicked. The lock disengaged. The cold grip vanished. Not slowly, not reluctantly. It was just gone. Ripped backward like something had been startled. Go! Rin shouted, shoving the door open with her shoulder. We stumbled inside the staff hallway, slamming the heavy steel shut behind us. The door thudded as something hit it from the other side, hard enough to bow the metal inward. Once, twice, then silence. Rin locked every manual bolt, her hands shaking uncontrollably. When she finally stepped back, she pressed her palms to her face. That wasn't a breach. That wasn't an inmate. That wasn't... She couldn't finish. I put a hand on the door. It was freezing cold, like something on the other side was still pressed against it. The overhead fluorescence hummed at an uneven frequency. Not broken, struggling. The hallway felt abandoned, dust floating in front of the lights like snow. Emergency binders sat open on the floor. A half-drunk coffee lay spilled across someone's dropped clipboard. Desks overturned. Papers everywhere. The staff wing had been evacuated in a hurry. Rin paced forward, scanning corners, sweeping each office doorway with her baton raised. There should be at least 6 officers here during day shift. There's no way they left without calling it in. They didn't leave, I said quietly. She turned. Then where are they? The answer hit me before I could speak it. They never made it this far. The hum of the lights grew deeper, like a vibration rolling through the ceiling. Something scraped along ductwork above us, dragging slowly across metal grids. The vents rattled. Rin grabbed my sleeve. Don't stop walking. The staff exit leads to administration. It's safer. There are more people. Someone will know what happened. Her voice was cracking. Every bit of training she had was pushing her forward, but something in her eyes was unraveling. We moved down the corridor. The red lines didn't continue here. The staff hall wasn't meant for inmate proximity, so we had no guide, just instinct and blind hope. Halfway down the hall, we heard the first whisper. Not a breath, not a voice, just the faint rustle of paper somewhere ahead. Rin raised her baton, motioning me to stay silent. The paper rustled again, this time more forcefully, like someone flipping through pages in a panic. We crept forward until the source came into view. The administrative archive room. The door stood half open, lights flickering inside. A stack of files lay across the doorway, as if someone had dropped them mid-run. Rin nudged the door with her foot. It swung inward. Everything stopped. Inside, the room was immaculate, despite the chaos outside. Files perfectly stacked. Chairs tucked. Not a pen out of place. A meticulously untouched room, except for the long strip of red paint smeared across the floor, leading into the shadows behind a row of metal shelves. Paint. Not blood. Fresh. Wet-looking. Rin crouched, touching the edge of the smear. When she lifted her fingers, the paint stretched in a thin elastic string. This wasn't painted, she whispered. This was dragged. The red line glistened in the dim light, leading toward a back corner. A cold realization hit me. The red lines weren't meant to protect us from inmates. They were meant to protect us from that thing. It had been using the staff areas when the prison was dark, moving freely. The lines weren't new restrictions. They were containment. Before I could say anything, the lights in the archive room dimmed. Not all at once. Shelf by shelf, section by section. A descending wave. Rin took a step back. Marcus closed the door. I reached for the handle and froze, because from the back of the archive room, behind the shelves, came a soft noise. Not a breath, not footsteps, a whisper, repeating the same 3 words, over and over. It's not locked. Rin's face drained of color. Marcus, shut the door. Now. I slammed it, but as it clicked shut, something pressed its hand flat against the other side. Not pounding, just resting there, impossibly soft, impossibly careful. Then it whispered, my voice again. You stepped off. Rin grabbed my arm. Marcus, run. And for the first time all day, I did. We sprinted down the staff corridor, the soles of our boots slapping against tile in uneven rhythm. Not explosive sprinting, just the unstable, adrenaline-heavy run of people trying not to look behind them. The overhead lights flickered in cascading waves, like something was chasing us through the circuitry instead of the hall. Rin kept glancing over her shoulder, not slowing, just verifying the door stayed shut. But something made her jaw tighten. The archive room door was opening. Not fast, not like anything crashed through it. It opened the way someone opens a door when they're trying not to wake a sleeping house. Quiet, slow, calculated. Rin's breath hitched. Just keep moving. Don't let it catch your pace. What does that mean? I hissed. It adjusts to whatever speed you give it. Don't sprint. Don't stop. Keep your rhythm human. I didn't have time to question that. The lights above us buzzed, then popped, one by one, bursting bright and showering tiny sparks before going dead. Darkness stalked us down the hall like a wave rolling behind our heels. We were maybe 10 seconds away from being swallowed. Staff exit, Rin gasped. End of the hall. I could barely see the sign ahead. Pale green glow of the emergency lettering bleeding through the flickering lights. The hallway felt longer than it had any right to be, like the building was stretching to hold us in place. Rin's hand brushed mine as we ran, not for comfort, just to confirm presence. That we were two, that neither of us had fallen behind. The thing's whisper trailed us, faint and distant at first, then closer, then beside us. Not behind, beside. An invisible presence pacing the wall to my left, keeping perfect time with my footsteps. Rin stiffened but didn't break pace. Don't look, she said. If you acknowledge a position it takes, it uses it. The whisper slid just an inch above my shoulder, brushing my ear like a breath formed by absence rather than air. You stepped off, it murmured. No force, no anger, just a recitation, a rule broken. I whispered back without thinking. I didn't. Rin shoved me hard. Don't respond to it. We reached the end of the corridor. The staff exit stood before us, reinforced steel, 2 deadbolts, 1 manual override bar. Rin grabbed the bar and yanked. It didn't budge. She tried again. Harder. Nothing. Her breath stuttered. It's locked from the outside. Behind us, the lights died in a final electric sigh. Darkness swallowed the entire hallway. Rin pressed her forehead to the door, whispering rapid, frantic calculations. There's another exit, a maintenance hatch, back in the mechanical subcorridor. That's behind us, I said. I know. The whispering grew clearer. Not one voice, multiple, layered, different versions of my own words playing at the same time, like someone had spliced every sentence I had ever spoken in the building. You stepped off. You stepped off. You stepped. Rin grabbed my hand. You trust me? Yes. Good. Don't fight me. She pulled me into the darkness. Not toward the whisper, toward the wall. I didn't understand until she guided my hand to a recessed panel. Small, flush with the concrete, easily overlooked. She grasped the handle and shoved her shoulder into it. The panel hissed like an airlock, then cracked open just enough for us to slip through onto a metal grating. The ductway, I whispered. We'll be trapped. It won't want tight spaces. It wants... Her voice cracked. It wants room. The steel panel sealed behind us a second after we entered. Then came silence. Deep silence. like someone had cut sound from the air itself. The ductway was pitch black except for faint red glow strips lining the edges. Ancient, rarely used emergency lights meant for maintenance crews. They cast everything in crimson, making Rin's face look carved from clay. She crouched low. Stay below the grid line. You can't track vibration down here. How do you know? Because night shift tried the main corridor, she whispered, and they didn't make it 10 feet. My throat tightened. You saw. No, she said. Just heard. We crawled forward. The metal grating creaked under us, the sound swallowed quickly by the duct walls, but not before it bounced once, then vanished. Rin crawled fast, efficient, like someone who had already planned this route in her head. Mechanical corridor opens up ahead. From there, admin block. If we reach admin, we can contact outside response before lockdown protocols kick in. The red glow pulsed once, then again, then held steady. That was the only warning. A soft thump hit the duct ceiling above us, directly above Rin. She froze. Another thump, precise, deliberate, like someone placing their hand palm down on the metal overhead. Rin mouthed, "Don't breathe." I didn't. The thing above us dragged its palm across the duct ceiling, slow enough that we could hear every finger moving independently, tracing arcs. It reached the point directly above my spine and stopped. The metal dipped downward, just a fraction, but enough for me to feel weight settling above me. Listening, measuring. The whisper came through the steel, muffled but unmistakable. You stepped off. I didn't move. Rin didn't move. Neither of us breathed. The weight stayed for 10 seconds. 30. Full minute. Then it withdrew. Softly, quietly, the pressure lifted. The duct ceiling returned to normal. Rin finally exhaled through her teeth. Go. Move. Don't hesitate. We crawled faster. The ductway narrowed, then widened again. Ahead, the red light strips brightened around a metal hatch in the floor. A ladder descended into darkness. Rin pulled it open. Fresh air wafted upward, air moving freely, unchoked by the stale heaviness of the upper corridors. We're close, she whispered. Mechanical hall, then admin. We climbed down, boots hitting solid concrete. This hallway wasn't part of inmate-accessible zones. Pipes ran overhead. Steam hissed intermittently. Power conduits glowed faintly. We weren't safe, but we were further from the thing. At least we thought we were. Then Rin stopped dead, because halfway down the mechanical hall, smeared across the concrete in unmistakable red paint, was a line. A single, fresh stripe, leading straight toward the admin door. I felt my stomach drop. They're not just guides, Rin said. Her voice trembled. They're boundaries. A deep breath echoed somewhere behind us. Not above, not behind the duct, but in the hall, with us, closer than before. Rin stepped backward until her boot hit my boot. Then the whisper drifted into the hallway like fog. Marcus, pause. You're not on the line. Rin grabbed my wrist with both hands. Marcus, do not move. The breath grew louder. The lights dimmed a shade. Something stepped into the mechanical hall, and the red line between us and the admin door flickered like a heartbeat. The breath in the mechanical hall was so close I could feel its pressure flex the air between my shoulder blades. Rin's fingers dug into my wrist hard enough that I felt her nails through the sleeve, but she didn't look at me. She kept her eyes pinned on the red line smeared across the concrete. It wasn't perfectly straight. It bent slightly around a pipe bracket, That detail suddenly felt life or death. The breathing came again, louder, drawn in and trembling, like something was trying to pull heat out of the room through inhalation alone. "Marcus," it whispered, not urgent, not angry, persuading, like someone coaxing a dog out of hiding. "Stay still," Rin breathed. "Do not acknowledge it. If you shift weight even a little, it'll know." But it already. Sure. Her grip tightened, warning me that even words gave things away. The red line flickered faintly under the emergency lights. Not flickering from electricity, flickering from vibration, like something unseen was brushing against the air above it, testing its shape, testing its boundary. The mechanical hall's temperature plummeted so fast condensation began forming on the metal pipes. A drop rolled off one and hit the ground with a soft, impossibly loud tap. The breathing stopped. Rin whispered through her teeth, "Do not move." The silence was thick enough it felt like my ears were clogged. The fluorescent tubes overhead hummed, then dipped in tone, shaking dust loose from the mining gray ceiling. And then, a soft, unmistakable sound. Skin against concrete, a bare foot stepping closer. The red line shivered as if reacting to the vibration. The thing approached the boundary, slowed, stopped, then another step, closer. The air around us contracted, as if the walls were closing in. Rin's whisper barely made sound. "Marcus, it's testing the line." My hands went numb. My heartbeat slowed in self-defense. A third step. The breath rushed out of me. It was now inches from the boundary line. Maybe less. I was afraid to breathe wrong in case it made air shift across the floor. Afraid to swallow in case the sound drew attention. The thing inhaled, and the red paint curled, literally curled, lifting slightly off the floor like a thin film peeling. The movement was so small it was almost imperceptible, but it was enough to see a shimmer of air ripple upward. The line wasn't just painted, it was reactive, thermal, chemical, something the containment teams had laid down in emergency scenarios. My mind scrambled through every training manual I had ever read, but nothing inside ADX protocol explained reactive paint. The whisper came again. "You're not on the line." The words slithered into the hall like smoke. Rin inhaled sharply but silently, and shifted her weight so her boot touched mine again, heel to heel. We weren't on the line. Neither of us. The line lay 3 feet ahead, stretching into the admin doorway like a lifeline we were too far away from. And we weren't moving. The thing exhaled. The air trembled, and the red line fluttered again. If it crossed, we were done. Rin closed her eyes, then opened them again with renewed clarity. "Marcus," she mouthed, "we are going to move together." A decision that felt like suicide, but standing still felt like asking to be dissected. She counted silently with her fingers. 3, 2, 1. We took the smallest possible step forward. Half an inch, barely a shift, just enough to align ourselves toward the line without shifting weight off our heels. The breath behind us sharpened. Then it went silent, not retreating, not approaching, waiting. Rin counted again. 3, 2, 1. Another half-inch step. The silence pressed on my skull like a vice. I could feel my pulse throbbing in my gums. Behind us, something exhaled softly, like it realized what we were doing and was letting us move. Not approval, permission. We inched forward again, and again, and again. Each tiny movement felt like walking through water thick as oil. I felt sweat roll down my spine despite the hall being cold enough to frost pipes. Rin's fingers trembled against my wrist. We reached the line, toe to toe. One thin stripe of red paint separating us from whatever followed us in the dark. Rin didn't step onto it. She lifted her foot and crossed. As soon as her boot touched the line, the red paint glowed faintly. Just a moment, but unmistakably, like metal reacting to heat. She didn't stop. She pulled me across before I could overthink it. The moment my boot hit the line, the temperature surged upward, not warm, but less freezing. The pressure behind us eased, like something had hit an invisible wall. Then a hand, flat, pale, too many joints along the fingers, spread itself against the concrete just inches behind the line. Not punching it, feeling it, testing it, examining where the barrier ended and where we began. The hand retracted into darkness. Rin didn't wait for whatever would come next. "Move," she whispered, tugging me down the hall toward the admin door. The red line continued in a perfect path straight to the entry. We followed it like it was the only solid ground left in the world. Every few steps, I felt the breath again, farther this time, but not gone. It shadowed us, just beyond the boundary. The admin door loomed ahead, steel, reinforced, secured with a biometric lock and manual override wheel. The glowing red line ended directly beneath it. Rin reached the door, grabbed the override wheel, and turned. It moved, unlocked. A breath of hope surged into my chest. Then a voice, too close to my ear to be possible, whispered, "Marcus." My blood iced. "What now?" I asked, barely air. Rin wasn't looking at me. She was staring at the biometric panel. The LED wasn't green. It was pulsing, red, slow, steady, like a heartbeat. "It wants us inside," she whispered. Behind us, something pressed both hands flat against the invisible barrier. The metal groaned. The red line pulsed brighter. Rin swallowed hard. "Marcus, whatever's on the other side of this door, it's not safer. But staying here isn't an option." The breath behind us deepened. The admin panel beeped once, and the door began to unlock. On its own. Rin stepped back, eyes wide. "Marcus, don't cross until we're sure what opened it." But it was too late. Someone on the other side whispered through the crack. A human voice this time, broken, terrified. "Is someone out there? Please, please open it." Rin's face drained of color. She knew that voice. I did too. Lieutenant Mercer. Alive. Maybe. Behind us, the barrier shuddered. Ahead, Mercer's voice cracked with desperation. "Please. It's right behind me." Rin looked at me. The line glowed under our boots. "Marcus," she whispered. "If we choose wrong, we don't get another chance." Mercer's voice trembled through the crack in the admin door, thin and quivering like it was fighting its way through a dry throat. "Please, open it. It's right behind me." Rin didn't move, not even to breathe. She stared at the narrow gap, jaw clenched so tight her teeth must have been grinding. The biometric panel still pulsed red, heartbeat steady, casting the hallway in sick rhythmic light. "Mercer," she whispered. "Is that you?" A sound scraped from the other side, like someone gripping the metal frame with torn nails. "Yes," he said. "Rin, please. You have to open it. I can't hold the door much longer." His voice was almost right. Almost. Mercer normally had a slight rasp, like a lifetime of shouting commands had scratched permanent grooves in his vocal cords. But this voice was cleaner, too clean, as if someone had washed out the imperfections. Rin heard it too. She leaned toward me and mouthed, "Don't trust it." The barrier behind us groaned again. Something pressed harder against the invisible edge, testing the line, pushing the limit of whatever kept it contained. The concrete vibrated under our boots. We didn't have time. "Mercer," Rin said, louder now. "What happened in decontrol?" A pause. A long one. Then Mercer's voice again, eager, desperate. "It wasn't supposed to get out. We followed procedure, but the triggers failed. Something came through the vents, through the blind spots. I didn't see." "That's not the question," Rin snapped. Another pause. Too long. The breath behind us dragged inward slowly, like a creature savoring anticipation. Then voices, plural, began whispering through the admin crack. All in Mercer's tone. All overlapping. All wrong. Rin grabbed my sleeve and pulled me back from the door. "It's mimicking him. It's not Mercer. Marcus, look at the bottom." I crouched, heart hammering against my teeth. Under the admin door, where a sliver of space revealed the shadow of someone standing in front of it. There were too many feet. 5, 6, pressed together like multiple silhouettes stacked over each other. One shifted, bending at an angle no human ankle could form. My breath caught. Rin didn't let me freeze. "Back. Now. Stay on the line." We shuffled backward along the red stripe. The admin door rattled violently, slamming against its frame as if someone, or something, threw its entire weight into it. The hinges shrieked. "Open it," Mercer's voice cried. "It's right behind me." Then another voice behind him. The same voice, same tone, same panic, layered like a broken radio looping a single sample. We kept backing up. The breath behind us deepened, like the creature was pacing the boundary, letting the admin door distract us. "Rin," I whispered, "what's the plan?" She didn't look at me. She stared ahead, jaw set. "The line doesn't just block it. It defines zones. If admin is compromised, then the last safe zone was gone." As if hearing the thought, the admin door stopped shaking. Silence returned, hollow, wide, dangerous. Rin took a single step backward, pulling me farther down the hall. Then slam. The admin door burst open, hit the far wall, and bounced halfway shut again. But nothing emerged. Not immediately. The red line under our boots glowed faintly with the motion, like a pulse accelerating. Rin tightened her grip on my arm. "Do not look into the doorway. Keep moving. Back to the duct. We'll reroute." We turned and froze. The duct hatch behind us, the one we climbed down from, was open. Wide open. We did not open it. And from the black square of the duct, a single hand gripped the ladder. Pale, long-fingered, joints sharp as broken branches. It didn't climb down. It just held the rung, waiting. Rin hissed. "It rerouted us." Then something skittered inside the duct, metal vibrating like 1,000 tiny impacts. The noise built rapidly, thunderous, stampeding, then stopped instantly the second Rin raised her baton. Dead silence. The hand remained on the ladder rung, no longer testing, now claiming. I turned back toward admin. The admin door was still cracked open. One shadow stood inside. Just one. Not 6, but tall. Extremely tall. Shoulders almost brushing the top of the frame. His head tilted, listening. The breath returned behind us. I didn't turn. Rin didn't turn. But we felt it. Lower. Closer to the floor. As if something crawled. Rin whispered, "Marcus." We're boxed in. The duct in front of us. The admin shadow behind us. The boundary line under our feet. The creature pacing just beyond it. There was nowhere left to go. Unless Rin looked down, not at the red line, at the tiny break in it. A gap, less than an inch long, barely visible. Red paint smeared, not quite connected. A manufacturing flaw? Someone rushing the paint job overnight? Or a weak point? She mouthed, "It can't cross the line." But it found the gap. My stomach dropped. The breath behind us grew heavier, as if something was sliding through that tiny break, inch by inch reclaiming space it shouldn't have. Rin wiped sweat from her upper lip. "We need to close the gap." "How?" "We need the paint. Somewhere on this floor there's a container. Maintenance must have left one." The breath pressed against my spine, close enough that my shirt lifted slightly with the draw of air. "We don't have time," I whispered. "We do," she said, "but you can't move. If you move, it will." Rin set the baton in my hand and stepped backward, off the line, into the unprotected concrete. The breath shifted, focused on her. "Rin, don't talk," she said. She crouched, eyes scanning the floor. Then she saw it. A maintenance bucket in the far corner, half hidden behind a coil of hose. She began moving toward it. Slow, soft, each step placed with surgical precision. The breath behind us grew restless. Something's fingers drummed the floor lightly. Tap, 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 like someone growing impatient. Rin reached the bucket, lifted it. The lid was off. Inside, a thick paint roller crusted with dried red. She dipped 2 fingers into the bottom, finding a small well of still wet paint. She turned and froze, because something was crawling toward her across the floor. Low, wrong, slow, not passing the red boundary, staying just at the edge of the gap. His hand pressed against the floor, reaching. Rin lifted her paint-smeared fingers and stepped back toward the line. The air pressure changed instantly. The admin door slammed shut behind us. The duct hatch slammed above us. The entire hall went silent, except for one whisper, right beside my ear. "Marcus, don't fix it." Rin reached the gap, kneeling, hand shaking. She pressed her fingers down to close the break. The breath behind us surged. The lights flickered. The red line glowed so bright it filled the hall. Then something slammed into an invisible barrier so hard the floor shook. Rin stumbled back, paint smeared across the concrete. The line was whole, the breath cut off. Silence fell like a dropped curtain. Rin crawled back onto the line, panting. We didn't speak, didn't breathe loud, because whatever had hit that barrier was still there, still trying, still watching. Then, from behind the admin door, Mercer's voice returned. Soft, calm, almost cheerful. "You shouldn't have done that." Rin whispered, "Marcus, run." And we did. We ran. Not fast enough to be reckless, not slow enough to be predictable. Just the desperate, controlled sprint of people who finally understand the building is no longer a structure but a trap. A maze that shifts just enough to keep you inside. The red line stretched beneath our boots like a lifeline pulled taut, guiding us deeper toward the only area left untested. The emergency evacuation junction. The breath behind us didn't follow. It stalked, moving parallel on the other side of the boundary. Pacing shadow. A presence that never touched the line anymore. Because it didn't need to. It knew where all of them were weak. Rin kept her eyes forward, shoulders hunched as she ran. "It's learning," she said. "It's trying patterns now." What patterns? The way we breathe, the way we step, the way we hesitate. A chill shot up my arms. How do you know? She glanced back just once. Because it started mimicking my cadence. Not yours, mine. The hallway ahead stretched in a long industrial tunnel, bare concrete, exposed pipes, flickering bulbs. Normally off-limits except for facility engineers. Today, it smelled like stale air and something metallic, like iron left in a storm. Halfway down the tunnel, Rin slowed. Not stopped. Slowed. Marcus, do you hear that? I did. A sound that didn't belong here. Human voices. Multiple. Faint but real. Echoing from the far end of the tunnel. A cluster of officers? Surviving staff? Anyone? A wave of relief hit me like oxygen. We're not alone, I whispered. Rin didn't smile. She didn't ease. She didn't believe it, not fully. Call out, I said. Let them know. No, her hand shot out, gripping my chest. If it's real, they'll call to us. If it's not, a voice shouted down the tunnel. Hail, Rin. Over here. A voice I knew. Perez. His voice was cracked but recognizably human. I'd worked beside him for 7 years. There was no mistaking his tone. Rin's grip softened. Perez. He survived. For the first time all day, something loosened in my chest. We moved faster, following the red line toward the echoing voices. The tunnel widened into a service hub, crates, spare equipment, light fixtures stacked in rows. At the far end, flashlights bobbed. 3 officers waved us down. Perez, Dalton, Rice, actual humans, alive. We moved toward them. Rin's relief was fragile but growing. Perez stepped forward, hand raised. We saw the lockdown, thought no one else. He froze. His eyes drifted past us, over our shoulders, toward something he could see but we couldn't. Rin, Perez whispered, voice quivering. Do not move. Rin stiffened instantly. Perez, don't say that. Don't. Dalton and Rice backed away, flashlights trembling. Rin swallowed. What is it? Perez's breath hitched. It's behind you. My blood iced. Rin slowly lifted her hand, fingers trembling. Marcus, do not turn. I didn't. I knew better. We both knew better. The officers looked horrified, eyes fixed on whatever loomed behind us. Dalton raised his flashlight higher, or tried to. His hand shook too badly. The beam jittered wildly, briefly painting the tunnel walls, then dipping down across the red line, splitting the light. For a fraction of a second, the beam passed behind us, and the light bent. It bent around something standing inches from us. Not reflecting, not passing through, bending. Perez gagged. Don't move. Rin tightened her grip on my sleeve. Perez, she whispered. If we step onto the admin side of this line, we die. If we stay here, it gets us. So tell me right now, where is the nearest safe point? Now. Perez's terror sharpened, solidifying into something like clarity. There's one zone left. One. The freight annex. Containment paint goes straight across. It's a full seal. The annex. Rin breathed. That's half a mile across the service tunnels. We cleared some of the path, Perez said. Most of it. Most. Not all. Behind us, the breath hit the back of my neck. Slow, calculating, almost gentle, like the thing was listening to every word. Rin nodded to Perez. Lead us. Not yet, Perez whispered. You can't move until it does. Until what does? I asked. Perez's throat worked as he swallowed. It's mirroring you. If you move, it moves. If you freeze, it freezes. Rin's voice grew tight. So how do we break sync? Perez trembled. We don't. Something else has to draw it. A clang echoed through the tunnel. Not behind us. Ahead. From the annex direction. Something big. Something metallic. Dalton flinched. It's in the tunnels too. No, Rin's eyes widened. It's reacting to something over there. Perez wiped sweat from his brow. When it moves, you move. The breath behind us suddenly deepened. Sharp, hungry, like something smelling prey elsewhere. Perez saw it before we felt it. It's turning. It's turning away from you. Don't make a sound. Rin's hand slid down my sleeve. She mouthed, steady. Then, move. All at once, we bolted. Dalton and Rice swept ahead, flashlights bouncing wildly. Perez ran beside us, never looking back. Rin stayed at my shoulder, matching my stride with surgical precision. Every bootstep hit square on the red line. Not an inch off. The breath receded behind us. Not chasing. Choosing. Choosing something else. Or someone else. We didn't question it. We ran until the tunnel curved sharply left. The annex door stood at the end. Huge, metal, reinforced, surrounded by a perfect rectangular border of red paint. A full containment seal. Perez lunged for the door panel. Come on. Come on. The light flashed green, but before he could pull it open, Dalton screamed. We turned. Dalton's flashlight hit the floor. He wasn't there. Just gone. No sound. No struggle. Just absence. Rice froze, staring. Rin grabbed his wrist. Move! Perez yanked the annex door open. Bright light spilled out, actual daylight from the loading yard beyond. One by one, we dove inside. Perez, Rice, Rin, me. Rin slammed the door. The red line glowed. We collapsed onto the floor, panting, shaking, barely believing the sudden brightness, the open air, the normalcy. For 10 seconds, none of us spoke. Then, from the far side of the door, a soft whisper seeped through the metal. Not angry, not desperate, just patient. You stepped off. Rin looked at me, tears streaking the grime on her face. Marcus, she whispered, don't ever open that door. I didn't intend to, but I'll tell you this. Even now, hours after the alarm stopped, after emergency teams flooded the annex, after we were escorted out in full lockdown gear, I still hear it. Not every second, not every minute, but sometimes when the building shifts or the vents hum too low, I hear a breath, right behind me, waiting, because we didn't escape it. We just outran it. And the lines, they don't hold forever.